Andrew Tate. The alpha of arrogance, the sultan of sleaze, the human Lamborghini of internet nonsense. He calls himself the top G. But spoiler alert, the G stands for gaslight, grift, and garbage takes. From chess prodigy dropout to kung fu fairy tales. From misogyny masterclasses to hustling like it's a multiverse scamathon. Andrew isn't just problematic. He's a full-blown boss battle in a fedora. So grab your cigars, dodge the Bugattis, and hold on to your mental health, because this is everything wrong with Andrew Tate. Sorry to interrupt, but Andrew Tate thinks real men hit subscribe. You wouldn't want to disappoint him. Or would you? Thanks. Chess child prodigy? More like chess child reject? Here's a guy who learned chess at age 5 from his own dad, an actual international master, and even played in adult tournaments as a kid. You'd think with that kind of brainpower at home, Andrew Tate would grow up to be a genius, right? Nope. Instead, he decided brains were overrated and that real men should be all about raw aggression, speed, and cash. In other words, hypermasculinity 101. It's like having a Ferrari in the garage and choosing to ride a unicycle because it's tougher. The man who was raised by a chess master now proudly dismisses intellectual pursuits while loudly preaching that men should be top G warriors dominating everything, except, apparently, the chessboard. Critics have called out this total rejection of his early potential as a classic case of macho posturing disguised as being real. So congrats, Andrew. You inherited chess skills but chose to play checkers instead. And honestly, you probably lose at that too. Kickboxing or Kung Fu Fantasia? When Andrew Tate started his kickboxing career, it turns out just winning fights wasn't quite enough. Oh no, he had to spin a mystical tale of being trained by Master Po in a far-off magical land called Wudon. If you didn't know better, you'd think he was pitching the next Kung Fu Panda sequel. The catch: Master Po is not a real person, and Wudon isn't some ancient martial arts hotspot, but a mashup of made-up mysticism and bad marketing. It's like if Mike Tyson claimed he trained under a kung fu wizard on Mars, absurd and easily mocked. Critics rip this fabricated backstory to shreds because it reeks of desperation. When your fighting skills aren't enough, invent a fake sensei to look cooler. Tate's Wudon fantasy was less about honest branding and more about manipulating fans into buying the myth. And it worked, to some degree, because it created the illusion of secret knowledge and toughness. But in reality, it just made him the punchline of countless memes and a cautionary tale for wannabe fighters trying to fake their credentials. So congrats, Andrew. You went from kickboxer to martial arts mythmaker, proving sometimes the biggest fight is against your own credibility. Elite club or shady network? The War Room. Andrew Tate's secret society for ambitious men who want to level up, or maybe just learn how to manipulate, hustle, and stay in the dark. Marketed as an exclusive brotherhood, this invite-only club promises brotherhood, power, and success for those lucky enough to get in. But behind the velvet rope, critics and former members have suggested the War Room isn't just a networking hub. It might be a coaching ground for manipulative tactics and questionable schemes. It's the kind of secret society that sounds less like a boys' club and more like a shady soap opera full of power plays, gaslighting lessons, and potentially coordinating controversial activities. While it's distinct from the more serious allegations like human trafficking or the Loverboy method, the opacity surrounding what exactly goes down behind closed doors fuels plenty of speculation. Is it a mastermind think tank, a cult, a workshop for toxic masculinity on steroids? The truth remains murky, but one thing's clear. Andrew Tate's War Room cultivates a mystique that's less elite men's club and more cloak and dagger playground. It's the kind of thing that makes you wonder what kind of top G tactics they're really teaching. Because when your biggest selling point is secrecy, it's usually not a good sign. Conspiracy theorist extraordinaire. If you thought Andrew Tate's controversies stopped at misogyny and hustling, think again. The man has dipped his toes, or maybe dived headfirst, into the pool of conspiracy theories that would make any late-night YouTube rabbit hole jealous. Tate talks about the Matrix, a nebulous system supposedly keeping men down, controlling the masses through global institutions and shadowy elites. According to him, he's a truth-teller exposing a rigged system, the one dude brave enough to challenge the puppet masters. This anti-establishment persona resonates strongly with his followers who feel disillusioned or frustrated by society. But while it might make for compelling storytelling, it also fuels dangerous mistrust in science, government, and legitimate institutions, especially when paired with his COVID denial and other harmful rhetoric. Tate's conspiracy spiels aren't just harmless ramblings. They help amplify paranoia and division, turning critical thinking into a cult of cynicism. He's not just selling a lifestyle, he's selling a worldview that demonizes progress and expert knowledge. So, behind the bling and bravado is a man weaving a complex web of misinformation, a real-life version of the man behind the curtain trope. Show me the money, or maybe not. Andrew Tate talks about money like it's oxygen, and he's the guy who just can't stop bragging about how much he has. Lamborghinis, luxury watches, mansions bigger than most people's dreams. He flexes like the world's richest dude in every Instagram photo. But here's the rub. Actual proof of all this cash? Nearly non-existent. Tate claims to pull in 6 or 7 figures a month from hustling courses and business ventures. But journalists and critics alike have questioned these claims because they lack independent verification. You'd think with all that money, there'd be some hard evidence. Bank statements, business filings, or even receipts. Instead, what you get is vague talk, flashy lifestyle posts, and hustlers' university sales pitches that some call a glorified pyramid scheme. If you have to keep reminding everyone how rich you are, maybe it's because it's more fiction than fact. Tate's wealth is like a unicorn, often talked about, never actually seen. Meanwhile, the people who buy into his courses get the short end of the stick, paying for vague advice wrapped in hype. So, is Andrew Tate a billionaire? Or just really good at Photoshop and self-promotion? The jury's still out. But one thing's for sure, when it comes to showing real money, Tate's wallet is more of a magician's trick than a bank vault. When reality TV meets real consequences. Long before Andrew Tate became the top G of Twitter controversy, he tried his hand at fame with Big Brother UK in 2016. But his stint on the show was cut short, and not because he couldn't memorize the rules or win a popularity contest. No, Tate was removed after videos emerged showing him hitting a woman with a belt.
Just torture you into having mental breakdown. That's the whole point. They want you to scream and cry like a baby, right?
His defense, it was consensual roleplay. Spoiler alert, the producers and the public weren't buying that explanation. The incident exposed a darker side of Tate that didn't mesh with even the chaos-friendly reality TV world. Big Brother is no stranger to drama, but this crossed a line. Tate's attempt to brush it off as kinky fun made it worse, because hitting someone with a belt is not a casual party trick, it's a red flag. And unlike his usual social media antics where controversy can boost his follower count, this one got him kicked off a national TV show. It was a real-life moment that proved Tate's top G persona isn't just talk, it's behavior with real consequences. For a guy who loves flexing power and control, getting removed from Big Brother was an early sign that sometimes the world doesn't want to play along. Turns out being edgy only gets you so far when the tape rolls. Women belong. Where exactly? If Andrew Tate had a theme song, it'd probably be Back to the 1950s. His opinions on women read like a time capsule of outdated sexist nonsense. Women belong at home, can't drive, and are basically a man's property. Tate's proudly regressive views have been promoted far and wide, earning him a cult following of teenage boys who think this is the recipe for being a real man. But for everyone else, it's a disaster. Tate mocks feminism and pushes traditional gender roles like it's the secret to success, ignoring that these ideas have been rightfully challenged for decades. His rhetoric dismisses women's autonomy and reduces them to stereotypes, which critics call not just offensive but dangerous, because it normalizes misogyny under the guise of just being honest. Tate doubles down by ridiculing mental health struggles and encouraging toxic masculinity, making his influence on impressionable young men a real cause for concern. And when called out, his response is to mock or ignore, proving he's less interested in dialogue and more invested in stirring the pot. So, if you want a modern-day role model who treats women like property and scoffs at equality, Andrew Tate has you covered. For everyone else, he's a cautionary tale of how not to be. Victim blaming 101. Let's start with the jaw-dropping moment Andrew Tate decided to make victim blaming his brand's cornerstone. Back in 2017, he tweeted that women should bear some responsibility for being raped. Because obviously, if you get attacked, it's your fault for existing or not guarding yourself perfectly, right? This gem of wisdom sparked immediate outrage and rightly earned Tate a permanent spot in Twitter's Not Welcome Here club. The backlash was fierce because last time we checked, responsibility for rape lies with the perpetrator, not the victim. But Tate's approach to the topic was so tone-deaf and inflammatory that it wasn't just controversial, it was downright dangerous. His tweet wasn't just a bad take. It's the kind of rhetoric that perpetuates rape culture by shifting blame away from criminals and onto survivors. Unsurprisingly, this comment contributed significantly to Twitter banning him, making Tate less of a top G and more of a top problem. So here's a quick lesson from the real world. Blaming victims is not edgy, it's cruel. And if that's your idea of commentary, maybe take a seat. Moving to Romania. In a now-deleted YouTube video from 2017, Andrew Tate casually admitted something straight out of a dodgy thriller. He moved to Romania partly because he believed it was easier to avoid rape charges there. Yes, that's exactly the kind of statement you'd want a public figure to make. I picked my country based on how slippery the law is. Of course, Tate later tried to backtrack, saying it wasn't an admission of guilt, but come on, the damage was done. This comment raised eyebrows because it implies a willingness to dodge serious legal consequences by exploiting a weaker justice system. Not exactly the behavior of a guy preaching honor and strength. Critics have been quick to point out that choosing a country for its lax laws on such serious crimes is not only shady, but wildly irresponsible. It reeks of privilege and a blatant disregard for victims of sexual violence everywhere. So while Tate might think Romania is a paradise for avoiding responsibility, the rest of us see it as a flashing red warning sign. Moving countries to escape justice isn't hustling, well, it's running. When hate speech gets you banned. If there's one thing Andrew Tate never seems short of, it's offensive language. His Twitter account was repeatedly flagged for posts containing homophobic and racial slurs, leading to a temporary suspension from the platform. Tate's use of hateful language wasn't just some slip-up, it was part of his brand's aggressive, provocative style, designed to rile people up and fuel his bad boy image. The problem? Platforms like Twitter have rules for a reason, and slinging slurs against entire groups crosses every line. While Tate probably sees these suspensions as badges of honor, proving he's anti-establishment, most sane people just see someone abusing free speech to spread hate. His defense usually boils down to, "I'm just being honest," or "people are too sensitive," which is basically a grown-up version of "the dog ate my homework." So Andrew, if you want to keep playing the provocateur, don't be surprised when the internet sends you to timeout. Hate speech isn't edgy. It's a one-way ticket off every social media platform that matters. Depression denial. Andrew Tate once declared that depression isn't real. a statement that naturally made mental health charities want to facepalm on a global scale. While Tate likes to portray himself as the ultimate top G who crushes weakness, dismissing millions of people's mental health struggles as a fantasy isn't just insensitive, it's outright dangerous. This kind of rhetoric fuels stigma, discourages people from seeking help, and turns mental health into a punchline for macho bravado. Tate's approach basically boils down to, if you're depressed, just man up, which is as helpful as telling a broken leg to walk it off. Mental health experts and advocates have repeatedly called out Tate for this harmful messaging, explaining that depression is a serious medical condition, not a character flaw. But of course, Tate's response is to double down, mocking anyone who disagrees and claiming he's just telling hard truths. Newsflash: denying depression is real doesn't make you strong, it makes you ignorant. And for someone with a huge platform, that ignorance has real consequences. Hustlers University. Andrew Tate's Hustlers University isn't just a course. It's a social media strategy wrapped in a questionable business model. To boost engagement, Tate encouraged his followers to flood TikTok and other platforms with controversial clips of him, a blatant attempt to manipulate the algorithm for maximum views and sales. In other words, Hustlers University members weren't just learning how to make money. They were being trained in online chaos creation, spamming comment sections, and stirring drama to push Tate's brand higher on the charts. Critics have called this a textbook example of algorithm exploitation, gaming the system not with quality content, but with controversy and outrage bait. The tactic is clever if you want clout, but it turns social media into a dumpster fire full of shouting matches and misinformation. It's also a sneaky way to keep people hooked on Tate's courses, which some describe as little more than hype factories selling vague advice. So, Hustlers University might teach you to hustle, but what it really teaches is how to exploit human attention spans. Webcam business scam. Ah yes, Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan's Romanian webcam business, because nothing screams top G entrepreneur like running a total scam that exploits desperate men. The brothers openly admitted the business model involves spinning fake sob stories to guilt men into paying up, making it less about empowering women and more about milking the gullible. Think of it as the internet's worst soap opera, where desperate guys were conned into coughing up cash to fuel a shady webcam empire. Critics slammed it as a classic bait-and-switch hustle dressed up as some glamorous digital hustle. The irony? Tate loves to preach about masculinity and dominance. But here he was running a scheme that relies on emotional manipulation and exploiting insecurity. So while Andrew rants about how to be rich and powerful, he was quietly raking in money by pulling the wool over people's eyes with fake sob stories. Nothing says hustler like scamming your own audience, right? For a guy who brags about being a self-made billionaire, this business was less top G and more top grifter. Human trafficking investigation. In April 2022, Andrew Tate's lavish Romanian home was raided by police after a tip-off that a woman was being held against her will. A real-life plot twist even his haters couldn't script better. While no arrests were made at that time, the investigation sent shockwaves through his fan base and critics alike. Suddenly, the top G lifestyle came under serious legal scrutiny, with authorities digging into allegations that went far beyond online controversies. Tate and his entourage claimed innocence, but the raid itself painted a grim picture, fueling speculation about his darker dealings. For a man who constantly flaunts power and control, being targeted by a human trafficking probe is the kind of headline that even his most loyal followers had to pause at. It's one thing to stir drama on social media. It's a whole other level to attract real-world criminal investigations. The raid put a serious dent in his untouchable image and turned Tate's story from internet troll to suspect in a case with grave consequences. Looks like the top G motto doesn't protect you from the long arm of the law. Greta Thunberg, Twitter spat. When Andrew Tate decided to troll climate activist Greta Thunberg on Twitter in December 2022, he probably thought he was winning the internet. The man who flaunts his fleet of gas-guzzling supercars bragged about their emissions as if that somehow made him a real man or a top-G eco-warrior. The spat went viral, with Tate mocking Greta's activism like a keyboard warrior on a caffeine high. But here's the kicker. Some wild rumors floated that this Twitter beef somehow caused his subsequent arrest, which is absolutely false but a testament to how messy the whole saga became. Tate's stunt did little except paint him as a loudmouth who thinks climate change is a joke while reveling in his own carbon footprint. Critics called it juvenile and tone-deaf because mocking a teenage girl trying to save the planet isn't exactly the move of a mature adult. The whole episode was a masterclass in how to alienate the general public while inflating your own ego. So yes, the top G loves his cars and his Twitter fights, but maybe not so much when the internet turns against you. Loverboy method allegations. Here's one for the plot twists. Romanian authorities allege that Andrew Tate used the Loverboy method to trick women. For those unfamiliar, this method involves promising fake relationships and affection to manipulate women before coercing them into abusive situations. In other words, Tate's smooth talk wasn't just bravado. It was allegedly part of a systematic strategy to lure and exploit. This chilling allegation adds another layer to the already damning legal drama surrounding him. While Tate claims innocence and spins narratives of victimhood, the Loverboy method accusations paint a disturbing picture of calculated deception. It's the kind of stuff you see in crime dramas, but unfortunately, it's being investigated in real life. For someone who constantly boasts about being a master of charm and persuasion, this story suggests he may have been using those skills for something far more sinister than just selling online courses. And no amount of Twitter insults or flashy cars can distract from the fact that this is a serious legal and moral issue. When charm crosses the line into coercion, it's not hustling. It's criminal. Social media bans. If Andrew Tate's goal was to become the internet's most notorious banned man, congratulations! Mission accomplished. In August 2022, Tate was officially kicked off Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube for repeatedly violating community guidelines with his trademark misogynistic content. His messages about women being property, mocking feminism, and preaching toxic masculinity were just too much even for platforms built on free expression. Apparently, calling half the population inferior crosses a line somewhere. Who knew? These bans weren't just random internet slap on the wrist. They were a coordinated no more Mr. Top G effort from platforms tired of hosting hate speech wrapped in entrepreneurial jargon. Tate's reaction: double down and find new platforms, because nothing says resilient like getting banned everywhere but refusing to learn a thing. And despite these bans, his toxic ideology continued to spread, showing how social media can sometimes be a messy game of whack-a-mole with problematic influencers. So yes, Tate managed to become the poster child for how not to behave online, earning himself a spot on the permanent blacklist of the biggest social apps, a digital exile worthy of a top G tragedy. Elon Musk's gift to controversy. Just when you thought Andrew Tate's social media saga might end with a permanent ban, enter Elon Musk, stage left. In November 2022, Musk reinstated Tate's Twitter account, giving him a direct line to millions of followers once again. The move was celebrated by Tate as a win for free speech, but critics saw it as a masterclass in platform irresponsibility. Musk's Twitter, already notorious for loosening content rules, became Tate's playground, a place where controversial, misogynistic, and conspiratorial content could flourish without much pushback. Tate wasted no time flooding timelines with his signature brand of provocations, knowing that Musk's Twitter wasn't about to shut him down anytime soon. For many, this reinstatement was the ultimate free speech irony, giving a man banned everywhere else the loudest megaphone possible. Meanwhile, victims and advocates worried about the platform becoming a breeding ground for toxic masculinity and hate. So while Tate basked in his Twitter comeback, millions watched in disbelief as the internet's most banned man was handed the keys to the kingdom and promptly used them to throw a wild party of controversy. 10 charges, no apologies. Andrew Tate's legal troubles are piling up faster than his Instagram flexes. In 2024, he faced 10 serious charges in the UK, including rape, human trafficking, and assault, linked to 3 women from 2012 to 2015.
Your location's directly next to your biggest competitor. So I'll go to war for you next to the competitor. Worst case, the location doesn't make.
Tate, of course, denies all accusations, sticking to his innocent until proven guilty script. And the classic witch hunt defense. But these aren't your average online drama disputes. They're grave criminal allegations with years of investigation behind them. The charges bring a dark shadow over Tate's empire of hustling and top G masculinity, raising uncomfortable questions about the real cost behind his bravado. For a guy who boasts about controlling women and living on his own terms, being hit with charges of this magnitude is the ultimate contradiction. Public opinion remains deeply divided, with fans fiercely loyal and critics demanding accountability. The case is ongoing, but it's clear Tate's reputation is under siege from accusations that strike at the very core of his public persona. No amount of Instagram filters or Twitter spats can obscure the seriousness of these charges. The man branded as a top G is now navigating the harsh realities of the justice system. When the taxman comes calling. In December 2024, Andrew Tate and his brother got a harsh reminder that even top G hustlers can't dodge the taxman forever. A UK court ruled that police could seize £2 million from the brothers for failing to pay taxes on £21 million earned through their online businesses. That's right, £2 million confiscated, because apparently hustling doesn't mean forgetting the government exists. Tate's empire of online courses and Hustlers University was not just controversial for its content, but also for how it handled its finances. Critics say this ruling exposes the cracks in Tate's self-made millionaire image, revealing tax evasion and shady business practices behind the scenes. For a guy who lectures the world on success and power, getting caught by the tax authorities is a classic fall from grace moment. The seizure sends a clear message. No matter how loud you yell top G, the law plays by different rules. And while Tate might spin this as a minor setback or a conspiracy, the reality is simple. Not paying taxes on millions is illegal, and courts don't care how many Lamborghinis you own. So yeah, Tate's financial hustle may have made headlines, but apparently it also made the government very interested. C19, downplay. While the rest of the world was scrambling to take C19 seriously, Andrew Tate was busy doing what he does best. Downplaying the entire pandemic. Masks, overrated. Vaccines, mandatory. No thanks. Tate publicly opposed mask wearing and vaccination mandates, spinning it as a battle for freedom and common sense, though it mostly sounded like a loud excuse to skip responsibility. Of course, ignoring expert advice during a global health crisis is a great way to boost your rebel credentials, but it's not exactly helpful when millions are getting sick. Critics slammed Tate for spreading misinformation and encouraging reckless behavior under the guise of top G independence. His stance wasn't just controversial, it was dangerous, pushing his followers to treat a deadly virus like a conspiracy theory. While people masked up, isolated, and got vaccinated to protect themselves and others, Tate's take was basically, wear a mask, I'd rather flex my ego. So if you want to know how not to respond to a pandemic, just watch Tate, the man who turned public health into a punchline. Tate's toxic influence. When teachers started noticing a disturbing trend, middle school boys parroting Andrew Tate's misogynistic rhetoric, including rape jokes, alarm bells went off. Schools reported students mimicking Tate's ideas about women being inferior, and even joking about sexual violence, all allegedly inspired by his online influence.
reason. You're going to have to defend yourself, regardless. That's the thing about the American legal system. You cannot ignore it.
That's right, the top G isn't just an online headache. He's turning classrooms into hotbeds of toxic masculinity and disrespect. Educators said this rhetoric created a hostile environment, making it harder to maintain respect and safety in schools. The fact that kids as young as 11 or 12 are repeating this garbage shows how deep Tate's reach goes. Like a bad virus infecting impressionable minds. While Tate markets himself as a mentor for real men, the real-world impact is clear, normalizing harmful ideas and enabling abusive behavior among the youngest generation. So yeah, Tate's legacy might be less about self-made success and more about kids walking into school with the worst kind of inspiration. And that's definitely something worth roasting. Cheating is exercise. For men only, apparently. Andrew Tate once argued that infidelity is acceptable for men because it's exercise, while condemning women for having multiple partners. Yes, really. According to Tate, men cheating is just a natural part of their biology and strength, basically a gym workout for their egos. But women who do the same get branded as sinners, with Tate whipping out biblical references to back his double standard. This classic case of do as I say, not as I do masculinity perfectly sums up Tate's toxic attitude towards gender roles. The man who preaches dominance and control conveniently draws the line at men's infidelity, declaring it a sign of vitality while shaming women for their choices. Critics have rightly pointed out how hypocritical and sexist this mindset is, doubling down on outdated stereotypes that reduce women to property and punish them for agency. Tate's take turns relationships into a battleground of unfair rules that only benefit men, wrapped in pseudo-religious justification. So, if you were wondering how to justify cheating while trash-talking women's sexuality, Tate has your top G answer. Spoiler. It's not about respect, it's about control, disguised as exercise. And there you have it. No matter how much he talks a big game, Andrew Tate is basically a walking, talking mess of contradictions and controversy you just can't look away from. What do you think of Andrew Tate? Let me know down below. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.